Hello, everyone. My name is Alexander Ermenkov. Today is 4th of February, 2023, and I'm continuing my series Daily Reality with Alex. In this series, during the 2023rd time, expressing myself and speaking about a lot of things that are important for all of us if we're willing to really understand reality and to know how to move in reality and to know why it is impossible reality to be any other way. Because anyhow, there are a lot of ideas, a lot of alternatives, a lot of bubbles, a lot of different expressions that are giving us so many different solutions about how reality is experienced and how we are as human beings to move through reality. For me personally, I am very impressed with everything that is ignored, and I like to go against the different flows that are existing right now. And the most important thing is when I am trying to evaluate a typical concept about mindset, about reality, about something that looks like very modern, is to see, is it interactional? Is it long-term? Is it leading me into the right direction? Is it motivating me? And is it able to be actually applicable into the daily reality experience of the human being? And in today's message, I will speak about a subject that is, of course, dear to my personal experience and heart, and is something that I'm using daily, and I even don't understand how people and how we the human beings are trying to ignore the existence of it, because it is impossible not to accept the existence of this principle in reality, because even without this fundamental principle, reality is not possible to exist, and the engine of experience to actually be working. So I'm going to speak today about reality of judgment. Of course, I'm a Christian and I'm deriving a lot of my experiences through this type of explanations. And when somebody hear a Christian, we think about decadence, we think about religion, but don't forget that the ancient texts that are in the Bible, and then we have them in the Babylonian texts, and all the ancient first type of civilizational texts are speaking about approximately same things and experiences. And I know today the human beings are trying to disattach from the existence of all these ancient books that today we are calling religion, and we are constantly trying to ignore the existence of this ancient knowledge. But let's go now and deep dive into how I am comprehending, understanding, and how I'm constantly implementing in reality everything that is anyhow working for us in the 2023. First of all, why this concept of judgment exists. The concept of judgment exists only for one and only one reason. It is a result of the law of cause and effect. It is not possible to exclude the judgment principle, or let's say in the Indian and other ancient religion, it can be called karma. So once a deed is done, it is creating eternal result that cannot be erased. Reality works in the same way as the modern, highly sophisticated computer CRM systems where everything can be corrected, but everything is registered and everything is known as is known forever. In the same way, in reality, every thought, every feeling, every deed, every state, every being of ourself is constantly being registered. Where it's registered, Alex, you can say, I don't need to know, but in order the law of cause and of effect to exist, it is not possible to be other way. Also in the ancient texts, one of the representations of the gods is that they are judges. Why reality is constructed in such a way that the governing beings of the construct of reality should be the ones that are constantly scaling, that are constantly judging and saying if the deeds of the beings are aligned, are in support of the reality construct and the direction towards where everything is going or not. Why there is a council of the judges, and then why we the human beings are trying and are easily obliterating this concept, and everything started from the first stories about, for example, when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge of the good and evil, and they didn't die, though the higher being that created them told them that they are going to surely die. And the being that enticed them into doing it said, no, you will not surely die, but you are going to become like gods, you are going to understand good and evil, you are going to discern, and so on and so on. And what actually happened there is that they didn't die at the spot. Yes, immediately the process of decay started, but in a sense, both the statements were true. Yes, immediate judgment started on the spot, and yet it was delayed for 900 years, according to these stories. But what are these stories telling us is that in reality, the law of cause and effect have delays. Of course, we can long-term use the same principle as it is working in the negative, and we can now do whatever we want as a negative deed, and we are not going to feel the judgment immediately. And that's why lawlessness exists, and that's why it's possible all the negative imperfectness to be expressed in reality, because judgment is not swift and immediate. And maybe the first being that was experiencing this delay process of swift judgment, we usually label as the mercy, and we usually label as a being that is long waiting and very patient one. It doesn't mean that it is possible the results of the deeds of the beings to be erased. Delayed judgment doesn't mean that there is no judgment. But of course, it is even possible during all our experience through our living here on this planet to even not experience the swift judgment, and yet it is held from generation to generation. And that's why this karmic cause and effect judgmental type of results of all the deeds of the beings are constantly compounding, and the lags that are appearing actually are, in a sense, a delay. And in the negative type of expressions, we can think, well, it is allowed, so we are going to do it. And this is how imperfection and the human sinful nature, in a sense, that are non-beneficial expressions and the things we label as bad were able to appear because swift judgment was not allowed in reality. And if we just think that there was somewhere in the beginnings of times a being we call devil, Satan, or the negative being that first decided to separate itself out of the order and hierarchy of everything that is out there and the way things were, it was judged, but the judgment application is coming in stages and is coming with a big delays, and still the judgment for the beings that are working for the negative nature of expressions are still not executed till the very end. So I like to work with these judgment experiences in order we as beings to know that registration and judgment of everything that we are doing, or we can say another word, evaluation of everything that is done by any being in reality, is constantly monitored, registered, and evaluated. So there is a constant accountancy going on, and there is going to be a recapitulation for every being in reality. Why this is necessary? It is necessary in order to evaluate the way and the degree to which every being was able to perform or to use or to attach or to understand or to attract or to be able to move and to interact with the construct of reality as it is. Of course, for all of us, it is allowed to go and dwell into fake realities, to even through our mind imagination and by the power of resistance to create fake worlds and realities. But we are to be quite aware that the process of accountability and the process of judgment exists. I remember when I was very young, 17, maybe 18 years old, when I was a very passionate young Christian, and I was speaking at an open square about how the human beings are sinful and how they need the Creator and how Jesus Christ is the one that is the only option for them. And they started shouting at me, why do you think that you are better than us? You are not sure about everything that you're speaking. And there was going a quarrel between me, the doom and gloom type of young preacher, so to say, and the beings that were listening to me and were 100% opposing and resisting of my message. Of course, after 30 to 40 years, I still am 100% sure that it is not possible to obliterate and to say that this principle in reality is not existing. And maybe now I'm going to go into another contrast to tell you how it's working in the positive way. Everything beautiful and good that we are expressing through our being is not rewarded immediately. Yes, but Alex, the law of cause and effect, if I am really expressing authentically myself, I want the immediate result. I want instant judgment of the beautiful things I'm doing. Of course, when negative things are expressed out of my body and out of my being and out of my experience, I don't want immediate judgment. But reality created this lag in order imperfection to appear and in order all of us to learn to discern, to learn long-term, to understand why we need execution of righteousness and why we are going to be in a necessity of experience of governance where everything that is long-term going to be predominantly allowed are things that are supporting and encouraging reality, but it's not possible to create a fake utopia where all of us are just expressing only beautiful things, because in order reality to exist, in which participation are beings that are part of the generating of this reality, and in order this reality to be authentic, it is allowed and it is in necessity the beings that are generating the reality to come to the conclusion of the responsibility they personally have into the collective objective reality that all the beings are experiencing. And that's why my own personal responsibilities are the only thing I'm responsible for, and I'm not the one that am going to judge any one of you or even my children. And for example, maybe 3 days ago, we had, with my 14-year-old, we had a consultation with the governing body of the school, and they told me, Alex, your son is not really working hard, he's not doing good at school, and so on and so on. And I can tell to all of you, well, you know, I'm so perfect and I'm so good, so how can I allow imperfectness in my own personal family? Why don't I swiftly judge? Why I don't start to immediately take actions? Because I want to nourish in this young boy its own personal responsibility for his own life, and I prefer, while he's still young, to experience the imperfections, to understand what and how many possibilities of failure there are, and also to decide by himself and going through his own way of understanding what he really wants, to move forward into his own personal reality without me intervening as a father in a way that I'm going to create maybe more disaster than this opportunity and this experience that is happening in his life is in the moment creating by this evolutionary possibility for him to understand deep inside what is important for his experience. So I was not willing to go directly and say, I'm going to punish, or I'm going to do strongly something against, I'm going to resist, I'm going to intervene, or things like this, because it is going to create for me and for my own personal view, a fake reality. And I want people to know, to learn, to educe, to explore, and to love everything they are willing to know about. If it was part of the possibility that we are able to implant knowledge and desire for exploration in the small beings that are going to become responsible adults in the future, I think that long-term, the transhumanism can try to do it, but for me, the genuine essence of the human being is much more important, and this is how I'm applying this principle in my personal life. Of course, when we go about a positive way of the compound effect of the future rewards, the only thing we are to do is to express our beautiful small steps and the compounding and the rewards that we are, and when we are going to receive, it's out of our responsibility. We can never blame that we have done so much and nothing was given back to us. It's not part of our responsibility. Our responsibility to understand that the cause and effect law is working, that everything in the universe is not possible not to register. And I prefer to create so much depth towards the future me of receiving rewards, because it's part of the investment process, and it is something that in some of the religions they're trying to work a lot with it. If you have more good deeds, it is good. If you have less bad deeds, it's bad. Of course, the most important thing is the essence of the human being, to understand it, to subconsciously become and go into the ability to be able to perform and express the better and the predominant beautiful nature that is going to create progress, growth, enlightenment, and all of these beautiful things in his ecosystem of reality that it's creating. Then when we have the judgment type of principle that is existing with a delay, why this delay lag were created? The delay lag was created because of the existence of the Christ figure or a savior figure, where a redemptive process were created, and the cross idea and the way that through the storytelling, we know that the Christ was crucified and he accepted all the bad deeds on the cross, and he made an exchange between the righteous and the unrighteous. And there are a lot of storytelling about this, but it is more important for you to understand the concept. Through the cause and effect, every good or bad deed that I am creating is going to produce its own results. And whenever I'm producing something that is non-beneficial, and be sure I'm doing it on a daily basis a lot. If you think that I'm some type of a saint that is possible to do 95 to 98% of only good and beautiful deeds, I'm not possible to do it, and I don't know if there is a human being that can do it. But when we know about this exchange principle of the cross and what was done because of this lack and the supply of this Christ experience for the human beings, we can understand this concept and we can work with it. And if we understand how this exchange is working, then we can really tap into a much more powerful experiences in our own personal life. Because from one of the sides, we are acknowledging the cause and effect principle that judgment is required. Also, we are thankful and grateful for a solution that is provided for all of us. And long term, when we learn how to work with this cycle of experience, judgment, salvation, redemption, and for me, it was a very interesting thing how it was possible, the law of attraction, to work where the Christ figure was the only one, at least I know about, that was willingly attracting all the negativity that was possible to ever exist in the past, the present, and the future into itself so willingly in order to become exchange. So I was thinking about this like we have the stock exchange. There on the cross, we had this judgment redemption exchange. It is something that looks like invisible, but this is the only way why we are existing, because there is an exchange. And it is not a stock exchange, it is deeds exchange. It is redemption type of exchange, and it is karmic type of exchange. In order I today to be able to flourish, I need to do something with all my negativity that I'm able to express and to be able to pass it into this exchange mechanism. This is what Christianity is doing in order we as human beings to be able to transform and to use this exchange redemptive power of Christ, and also then to embrace the resurrectional power that is helping us to become beautiful and wonderful beings and to move towards something that we were supposed to be. We can say, well, Alex, but in the other religions, there are different type of construct. And for example, in the Eastern and Indian religions, maybe something like the same is done by the recycling process of millions of reincarnation, for example, till the human or this so-called soul or individualized consciousness doesn't realize everything that is a necessity for it to experience. Which of the concept is more good or bad, I cannot and I don't want to discuss it, because it is up to the way and to what human beings are willing to believe, because the belief is the substance of things we are hoping for, and these are the primary programs that we are using. I call them archetypes, and that's why I enjoy that I have this operating system of Christianity, but not the religious versions of it, but I'm trying to extract as much as possible of the most powerful source of this program that is constantly giving me ability to understand reality, to express myself of reality, to be able to discern the path, the way, the truth, the life, and to be able to comprehend and being an interactional being in today's reality, where the only thing that matters is energy, the only thing that matters is the vibration, the only thing that matters is real life validation of everything that we are and we are performing, and to know that how the higher beings are in a position and ability to be helping and supporting us. Because if we don't understand that if we think that reality is something that we can experience, we can cope with alone, we have not been created to be a separate experience without being in interconnection between what is above and what is below. In this sense, when we start to understand reality, then we are going to find and know and better discern all the different type of experiences that are trying to exclude some of the parts of reality and still trying to convince us that reality is possible to exist without some parts of its essential existence. And since it is not possible, this is how lies and fake realities and fake realms are possible to exist. And the beautiful thing about the fractal reality in which we work is that it is inclusive. It includes all, and it does not exclude, but can transmute the lower states of expressions. So it's not necessary, for example, for me to exclude the existence of everything that looks like delusional or things that are not in compliance with my own deep way that I'm experiencing reality, because if we understand that in reality of wholeness and inclusion, everything plays its part of reality. And a lot of people, when they're blaming the Christianity experience and how this religion almost conquered all the Western and half of the Eastern civilization, and how it was able to absorb almost all other type of paganism into itself. And then we say, yes, this is actually something that totally created an unpurified type of dominance, which is not giving the ability of the real expression of genuine religious type of consciousness to be experienced, but it created an amalgamation of something that is not really the real thing. Yes, in a sense it is so, but also it is showing how usually and how reality is inclusive, how all that is possible to exist, how all that is probable to be in reality is allowed to exist, and still reality is able to transmute, transform, transcend, and to long-term compartmentalize and to rearrange everything without the real order to disappear, because we are able to exist only because of the construct that is holding all of the experience to be able and probable. And even if we like it or not, the raw reality is created in such a way that the law of cause and effect and the judgment and the compounding of all the beautiful or all the negative is compounding, and even with the delay, a reward or accountability or the so-called recalculation and the final judgment, where everything in reality is going to be judged as more as we are going to the end. It is something that is so-called inevitable. It happens in everything in reality. So I don't know if it's possible for all of us. It doesn't matter how much we are trying to avoid it. Sooner or later, this is anyhow going to appear for all of us. And I know that still a lot of the beings are not willing to accept that the concepts of Christianity are anyhow in a way progressive, and a lot of us are even thinking that they're non-beneficial and they're not able to create a beautiful humanity. And this is part of the fears of some of the Christians, that long-term maybe Christianity is going to be forbidden and is not going to be allowed to be expressed publicly as principles, as something that is going to be, in a sense, acknowledged. But does it mean that this is not part of the reality concepts? No. As more of us are supporting the probability of the existence of everything, and more we are able to understand the principles of reality existence, the more we understand inclusiveness instead of cancel culture, instead of trying just to take part of reality and to say this is the only thing that exists, instead of dogmatizing, to be able to understand everything that is out there, and to realize how we as human beings are able to practically applicate this for the benefit of all of us, and to see why there are only small possibilities and probabilities for a beautiful reality to appear, and it is not the easy way. It is not something that doesn't require a lot out of the human beings. And this is how reality is created, that without sacrificial, without exchanging of the comfort for growth, without exchanging of our own personal ego desires for altruistic, humanistic wishes for beautiful experience to exist. And there are a lot of exchanges that are waiting for all of us to accept and to further realize, in order to be able to move towards a more beautiful society. Of course, in reality, more than one intention is working. If it was possible, only my intent to take over all reality, it was going to be beautiful, but my intent is able only to work in my own personal experience. And in my own personal experience, I am able to use and to utilize as much as possible of everything that is working for myself, and I'm experience daily a lot of beautiful things that are appearing for me and are constantly validating myself. And all I'm expressing today is just a recommendation now, and just something that I'm just willingly exposing myself before all of you, and just giving you my example, because I'm really amazed how many Christians are in the so-called personal development or new age movements or different type of so-called soft religions, where we think that if we take away some figures, and if we just deconstruct the reality, and if we just take away some principles that are bothering us, then this type of soft religions are going to create the magnificence that we really want to enjoy. But what I'm willing to express through my own personal life and being is acceptance of the raw reality as it really is. So thank you for watching. Enjoy your reality, and more we see, more awareness we are going to gather. And the beautiful thing is when we learn to let go, and when we learn to accept everything in reality as it is. Bye-bye.